Stop, 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 stop. Stop, 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 stop.
Hey, okay. Jelly Bean and I are going to talk to you today about supplements and hope that we can make some sense of how we should supplement our birds, finches and canaries. How did I end up with a parrot, huh? For a finch video. Tell me. This is about the sweetest bird I think I've ever had. Okay, supplements. Should you use them? And how should you use them? And how often should you use them? And which, there are so many out there, how are you going to choose them? I think that finches definitely need supplements unless you are providing an incredibly diverse raw diet. Most of us don't do that. Even if we're trying to do the raw, we tend to fall into little traps where we repeat the same foods over and over. I read one time that humans eat only the same 30 foods, like all year. That's all we eat. And I would say maybe even less for our birds. So we need to supplement. 90% of all bird illness is vitamin related, or nutrition related, I should say. The most common deficiency is vitamin A, and calcium and D3 fall right in behind that. So let's talk about the supplements your bird needs. Now, if you have Gouldians and you're practicing an austerity diet, you aren't going to give them any sort of vitamin or mineral during that period, but during the general, basic maintenance period, that's what we're talking about. And let's not even cover breeding today. Let's just talk about in general what you need. The first thing is going to be a multivitamin. A good bird multivitamin. I found one. I went online and I was trying to look at what you might see out there so that I could answer questions. And one thing I found was a dog and cat vitamin that said, oh, and birds, right at the end. I find it very hard to believe that one that would suit my Cocker Spaniel will also suit my parrot, much less my finches. So I say go with the bird-oriented products. And some of the name brands are going to be Morning Bird, Necton. I'm using Necton S right now. I forget what the S is for, but that's a good multivitamin. If you're into the Dr. Rob Marshall products, in the U.S., that would be ladygouldian.com. Those items, the multivitamin is called Dufo, and I'll probably type these out for you if you don't see them on the screen. So the multivitamin, you do need a good multivitamin. You may have to do math to figure out how much to use, and here's why I'm saying that. It is possible to oversupplement with vitamins. When I was in high school, they took me out of science class. They were just starting to get into those AP classes and things, and so they were trying to figure out what to do with me. So they took me out of science and had me run some experiments, which I chose to do on guinea pigs. And I used vitamins A, E, I don't remember what other ones, and my guinea pigs ended up very ill from overdoses of vitamins. And that just really struck home to me how this can be. And the same thing in our birds. We don't, it's important to give it, but we don't want to overdo it either. So when you're feeding pellet food, this is, you read on the bag and they almost all say 100% complete diet. Don't believe that. But if you're feeding a lot of pellets, like 50%, 75%, I hope you're not doing 100%, because if you own finches, canaries, cockatiels, the birds that are granivores, they need seed. They actually need seed. So please don't skip the seed altogether. But if you're giving pellets, they already are supplemented with these vitamins and minerals. So then you have to figure out how much should I give from this bottle of, say, Necton. I lost my parrot. Okay, so let's imagine that I'm feeding 50% pellet food. And let's imagine that the food actually has what it says, because I think that sometimes the heat extrusion actually removes the supplements. But anyway, let's say 50% of my vitamins come from my pellet food. Well, that means I need to supplement 50%, right? Or at least 75, since we don't want to overdo it. So what I would do in this case is I would probably supplement every other day or every third day to be on the safe side. I personally use a multivitamin, but only once a week or once every 2 weeks. It's not a real big deal to me if I forget 1 week, because I try to do the raw, diverse diet, but I feel like I fail sometimes. And you can have your birds tested. Finches, smaller birds, it's not usually recommended, but if you have some bigger birds, you could take one of them to the vet and he can draw blood samples and give you a blood panel that tells you everything about the vitamins in that bird's body. And then if your parrot is deficient in vitamin A, you can pretty much figure your finches are too. So you could go at it that way if you wanted to. Anyway, the point is, you kind of have to be a detective in order to be sure of how much to supplement. And I don't want you to come away from this thinking, oh, gee, you know, I'm going to give the multivitamin every day. No, don't, depending on how you feed. If you're feeding a good quality pellet food, you're already giving him some. So, you know, talk to the group if you need help figuring this out. This is really important not to overdo the vitamins. The second supplement I would say in our arsenal should be calcium. I strongly recommend, even if you're using a good multivitamin that contains calcium and you're already feeding a pellet food that contains calcium, go ahead and purchase a good quality calcium supplement. Now, let me emphasize that calcium needs 2 items. It probably needs more, but there are 2 I can think of right now that calcium needs in order to be absorbed in the body. One is phosphorus. You need a 2-to-1 ratio calcium to phosphorus. So that's why if you look on the bottles of your Calci Boost or Calci Plus or whatever, a lot of those products already contain phosphorus and maybe vitamin D3 and maybe some other things. That's good. That's very good. So when you feed the calcium, make sure they're getting the phosphorus. Also, vitamin D3 is the other one. When they can get vitamin D3 by being in the sunlight. So if you're keeping your birds outdoors, you've got that one covered. If you're not keeping them outdoors, but you take them outdoors, they're getting some. If you're using quality lighting, they're getting some. Just be careful. If you're having some weird calcium issues, like you've had a lot of egg binding. I never have egg binding, ever. If you have a lot of egg binding, if you're seeing your babies have some strange problems, like they're not forming properly, or their legs or their wings don't seem to be working, think about your calcium and the components around it. Maybe you are giving it, but maybe they're lacking something that it needs to be absorbed. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. So what else did I want to say about that? You can get a calcium supplement that goes in the water. You can also get one that is specifically designed to sprinkle on the food. So I like to use one that sprinkles on my wet food. I do it first thing in the morning. It's done. If all of my birds were not eating the wet food, if some of them rejected vegetables, I would probably put calcium in the water. There's one other type of calcium I would like for you to keep on hand if you are breeding birds, and that is calcium gluconate. You get it at Tractor Supply. It's in a tall glass bottle. It's clear. You'll have the same bottle around forever and ever. You have to draw it up with a needle and a syringe out of that jar. And what you're going to do with this is, if you have an egg-bound hen, or you suspect she's egg-bound, you can mix, draw up, and I have really small needles. I draw it up. I mix it with maybe 1/8 a cup of water, and I stir that up, and then I take the bird. Now they're not, an adult bird is usually not going to open its beak for you voluntarily. So I take it and I just dribble that liquid on the side of their beak. And I also usually mix some electrolytes in with that, by the way, so that something like Thrive or Guardian Angel. I mix those together because they're usually in distress if we're doing this. So the electrolytes will help. No bark. Thank you. There is a lizard on the window screen, so she has to bark. So anyway, you mix these things together, you dribble it on the closed side of their beak, and you will see the throat swallow. And this is a slow process. It may take you 20 minutes to feel like you've given a dose of some calcium. And then go back and do it again in an hour, and then do it again, and you will save that bird. So keep this calcium gluconate on hand. Some people just use that in the water as their main calcium source. It's just not the one that I use. Okay, let's see what else. Iodine. Iodine. Do finches need iodine? Yes, they do. Gouldians need it, it seems like more than others, but all finches need it. So it's easy enough to buy the morning bird liquid drops and put them in once a day. Or you can use my green powder recipe. I think I've already shared that with you, maybe, but I'm going to tell you what it contains. Powdered organic alfalfa, powdered organic kelp, eggshells, which can be the hatched brand eggshells, or it could be just eggshells you have collected and sterilized, and garlic. And the garlic is a powder. It's also an organic garlic powder. So you mix these items together and store it in a jar, and you sprinkle just a little bit of that on your egg food. And this is what you'll hear me calling the green powder. So what does it contain? It contains some protein, iodine, vitamin K, vitamin A. The garlic helps with fighting against infection. And of course the eggshells give some extra calcium and other, there are a lot more things in eggshells than just calcium. So it gives them some minerals. So it's a very good powder to keep on hand. If you want to follow my schedule, I do that 2 days a week on egg food. And by the way, I should have said this up front. A lot of you have already got a schedule. Maybe you got it from a website or from a vendor. I know some of you got a sort of a supplement plan from a vendor. Go ahead and use what you have. I'm just trying to hand out information here. I'm not saying this is better. I'm not saying do it my way, or, for sure don't drop what you're doing. If you feel like it works, then stick with that. That's the most important thing, is that we have something that works. What else? Probiotics. I wonder if you've ever tried probiotics. A friend of mine went to her vet and he checked out the bird and he said, "What have you done differently in the past year?" And she said, "All I've done is I've added probiotics every day." And he said, "Keep doing that." So that was really working. Probiotics enable the digestive system to absorb the other nutrients we've been talking about. So you can be throwing all the vitamins and minerals at them in the world, but if their digestion isn't working, if the system has broken down, it's not going to help. So the probiotics help clear the path so that everything else can be absorbed. They are very safe. You can use them every single day if you want to, year-round, and it's not going to hurt anything. Minerals. Just a general mineral idea. Minerals can come from like a salt block. A lot of you have told me you've gotten this really cool salt block, and I think someone said it came from Chewy. You can use that. You can use a mix that you make yourself. There are grit mixes that come from the big box stores. So any of those are acceptable to get the minerals. There's a product called F-Bite that I use. It is available through ladygouldian.com. It is, I think it says it's supposed to take the place of Cuttlebone and all of your other, grit type foods. So I've been using F-Bite for years. I'm really pleased with it. And you can even give it to them, just put the dry powder in there and they will eat it. They love it. So F-Bite is an easy excuse for a mineral. The other thing I want to talk to you about is apple cider vinegar. Now, apple cider vinegar lowers the pH in the body to help with the digestion. And so it's really beneficial. It's beneficial for us too, but it's beneficial for your birds. And I recommend that everybody use apple cider vinegar. You want the kind with the mother, which means the kind that looks like somebody forgot to filter it. It's got kind of icky stuff in the bottom. And the kind most people use is Bragg's, just because that's what's available in the health food store. But anyway, so an apple cider vinegar with the mother. And my vet says to feed it at a ratio of 15 milliliters to a liter. So that is what I recommend. That's what I do. I do mine 2 days a week. And you'll notice a pattern here. I do everything like 2 days a week, but that's just kind of how I laid it out. I'm going to share with you a written schedule of what I do, so you can start there and kind of change it up to meet your own plan. Anyway, the apple cider vinegar, there are a lot of different ratios. Everybody will tell you a different one. I just use what my vet said to do. It is not harmful, even in a slightly larger dose. Just be sure you always dilute it with water. And I guess that's that. That's all I have to say about that. What else? Oh, I did want to talk about a product called Prima. This came from the Save the Gouldian Fund, but it's not strictly for Gouldian finches. It's for finches, budgies, canaries, small parrots. And the Prima product says that it contains all the nutrients that they need. That's the only company I would believe that from. When other companies say, I usually say, if a pellet company tells you this is 100% complete diet, run, because it's not. But with the Save the Gouldian people, I really trust them. So I noticed that the protein level is high. It's 24%, which I think is good. There is a study out there somewhere. The internet keeps things around forever. And this is probably outdated by now. It says that our finches need 12% protein. From personal experience, I do not believe that to be true. I think they need more. And so this 24% makes me happy. Of course, this is not a diet. This is a supplement. So with Prima, you're putting 1 part Prima to 8 parts fresh food. So that's not very much, but at least it's got that extra protein in there. So Prima is one product that I do recommend. I do have it on hand. I have everything on hand, in case you haven't noticed. I use a lot of products. I rotate them around. Prima is a good one if you want to try it. You can get it at clamgouldians.com. And here is my reasoning for using many different products. I figure it's like your dog. You know, you have a dog and you feed him the same brand and the same flavor of food year in and year out for 10 or 15 years. And if he was if that diet is a little low in something, it's going to be compounded over the years, and he's going to be really low in that something. And if you took the same dog and you fed him this food and then that food and then that food, I know you're not supposed to switch them around continually, but you see what I'm saying. If you change foods periodically, and sometimes you gave him fresh food, table scraps, or you gave him some canned wet food, he's going to get some different nutrients in those. Maybe it'll make up for that deficiency that one bag had that you fed him for 6 months. So I feel like in the same way, our birds need, they need the changes. They need the supplement. They might need something else in addition to their cuddle bone. And I think with birds, they're a little harder to feed. It doesn't just come in a can. And maybe you started out with really good intentions, and you gave them the fresh foods, and you gave them the pellets, and you gave them the seed, but then you quit cooking for one reason or another, and then, maybe you ran out of pellets, and then you ran out of vitamins, so they're down to only seeds. That's not going to be a healthy bird. This is where these extra things come in, and I'm just saying, take a look at what you have. Go through your cabinet. Be sure you have the extra supplements that you think your birds might need. And talk to me on the Aficionados group. If you're on Facebook, Aficionados is my Finch group. And let's talk about what supplements you have or you need, or whatever it is you want to figure out. I'm going to write my schedule up and give you that as a download. And I think I already gave you the green powder, but I'll give you that again. And then if there are any more questions, we may need to do another handout. I wanted to mention a couple of my books. This one is Feeding Finches. It is all about the diet. It has a lot of recipes in it. It introduces my way of feeding, which is the chop concept. And I have another book out. I'll give you a screenshot because it's not back from the printer yet. The Gouldy and Finch Handbook. That is everything in the world you want to know about Gouldy and Finches, how to raise, breed, cage, and feed them. So I would love it if you would join my Finch group, or buy one of my books, or send me a message. Okay? Thanks a lot for listening, and have a great day.